Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. And this is your host, Tony Cañas, in a new year of Profiles in Risk. We're recording on January 3rd. And my guest today is Kate Terry, the co-founder and COO at Surround Insurance. Kate, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
Thanks for the invitation and Happy New Year. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you very much for coming. So we always give the guest the chance at the beginning to kind of give the elevator pitch. What is Surround?
Yeah. So I mean, at Surround, we're building insurance for modern life. So that's kind of the high level tagline. But really what we are is we're an MGA. And we believe that one of the big problems with property and casualty insurance is that it's been built assuming, especially on the personal line side, that you've got a life that looks like the game of life. Like you graduate from college, you finish your military service, whatever, you buy a car, right? And then you buy a condo, and then you find yourself a partner, and you get married, you buy a house, and then there's a white picket fence and 2 dogs and children and a life insurance policy. And the insurance has been designed for a life path that looks like that, right? So what happens when you're 35 and you live in the city and you've never owned a car, but you drive other people's cars, right? Or you've got a full-time job and you've also got a little side gig where you're making 10 grand a year, right? You're having a lot of fun. How do you protect yourself? And we think that those are some areas that big insurers have overlooked. And so we're trying to disaggregate the protection from the things and to build insurance around people's lifestyles. So we launched I was going to say earlier this year, but now that we're in the new year, we launched in the second quarter of 2021 with 3 products on our MGA platform. We have a personal lines non-owner auto, a renter's product, and a very light miscellaneous professional liability at $100,000 limit, so suitable for somebody who's got a side gig. And this year we are about to blow out to a bunch more states. And add some additional products, some of our own perhaps, and some that are sold from other carriers. And we're looking forward to meeting our customers' needs even better.
Okay, so you're speaking my language already. And
Nice.
by the way, for the listeners, there are times when I have people on the podcast that I've met a few times and that we've chatted a few times, and there are times often where it's an introduction or maybe even just a random connection on LinkedIn. And in Kate's case, I randomly connected with Gloria Guntinos on LinkedIn. Literally just I replied to one of her posts and I said, I haven't had anybody from Pouch on the podcast. And I had no idea that it bring a force of nature onto the podcast. And it's been amazing.
That's Gloria.
We've now recorded 2 episodes. One hasn't gone live yet, but it was amazing. And then Gloria made the introduction to Kate.
Yes.
So Kate and I hadn't actually chatted until today. And normally, very often, I chat with the guests for maybe 15 minutes to kind of warm them up. There was no need for that today. It literally was like 45 seconds. And by the end of the 45 seconds, we were both laughing, and it was time to start recording. So really, I didn't know much about Surround until, and usually I do like 30 seconds worth of research before starting recording. But you're really speaking my language, both as an insurance nerd, we'll dig into that, but even more just as a person. I am a very, very classic millennial, elder millennial. I just turned 39. And when I mean I'm a very classic millennial, it is me and my girlfriend, we're both professional workers. We're both within insurance, making good money. She has an executive level role. I'm on the sales side, but we both make good money. No kids, no commutes, no driving the kids around to school. The condo is within discussions, but we're not homeowners. And not only do I have the side gig that is insurance nerds, but also I even drove Uber for a while.
There you go.
So
a little bit of everything, right?
So I have very much faced the challenges of the millennial that doesn't fit into the traditional insurance product.
Yeah.
we've had challenges for and the worst part is because I'm an insurance nerd, I know that I should have the coverages, right? That many people just don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So for example, we've had challenges with not being married, and we have no intention
Yes.
of
Yeah.
getting married,
Yeah. Yeah.
and depending on which state we've lived in, because we've lived in several states, it can be tricky to have our
For
policies
sure.
together, right?
It shouldn't be. Right.
And it really shouldn't be,
No.
um, we probably overpay for our auto insurance because
Mm-hmm.
the car in the post-COVID era where both of us working remote, our 2012 Prius, which will run forever, and
Yes.
we'll never have a good excuse to replace it.
No.
Maybe when gas cars become illegal,
Yes.
but it maybe gets 2,000 miles a year. So we're very likely overpaying for insurance with it.
Probably are. Yeah.
Right. And so yeah, I'm exactly your target market,
Yeah.
basically,
Well,
for this product.
right. And the thing is, and if you were to let's assume that maybe you didn't have employer-based benefits as well, right? If you think about what that insurance shopping journey would look like for you who knows about insurance, right? Like
Awful.
find, yeah, it's like go find some renter's insurance. It's nobody's kind of front and center. Or if it is, they don't have anything else to sell you. Go find auto insurance. By the way, it's a low average premium because you're not driving very much and it's an older car. So nobody's thinking they're going to get a big account out of this, right? You need some commercial insurance for your side gig, which, my goodness, you might have to actually go to a commercial broker potentially, or to the commercial side of an insurance company. And they don't even know who you are, despite the fact that you may have other personal lines products with them. I mean, none of these are designed around how people actually live now, right? And I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, the history of property and casualty on the personal line side comes from fire insurance, right? It was protecting your things, your home. That was what you had, right? But we live in a world now where the liability side is so important, and the things may not be physical things, right? They may be digital things, right? So how do we protect them, right? Yeah.
Right. So the policy, when I got my CPCU, I learned a lot about the standard ISO policy, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it's hilarious, right? I have I can't remember the exact sublimits, but I have some level of coverage for bullion, which I believe is like gold,
as well
bars.
as pewter. Make sure you've got under the supplement for pewter, right? Yeah.
But unless I go out of my way to make sure it's listed and potentially have to go to another market, I probably don't have coverage for like the $20,000 in electronics that I have, because that happens to be my hobby, right?
For sure. Right. And take your bike, right? If you have a bike and you bike around the city, if your bike is stolen, it's probably on your homeowner's insurance, but it kind of depends a little, and there may be a sizable deductible, or on your renters, right? If you get hit by a car while on your bike, that if you had a non-owner auto or an owned auto policy, that's on your auto policy. You might have like a specialist cycling policy, and you're going to buy them oftentimes from different insurers. It just doesn't make any sense. So we're both trying to solve the problem of these products just don't exist. Not because insurance is broken. I hate that line. Insurance is broken. It's not broken. Like, we are the people who have stood behind every great human endeavor for hundreds of years. Okay. Like, we're the reason people can take the risks they do and hopefully pick themselves up when something doesn't go successfully. Right. Insurance isn't broken, but it doesn't grow and change as fast as it needs to. Right. And right now, life is changing. Lifestyles have already changed, and insurance is way behind. So we're both trying to fix the product availability piece, but we're also addressing how you shop for insurance. Like, it is ridiculous to have 6 or 8 or 10 different insurers all managed separately. So what we're building are these bundles that kind of we combine to match your lifestyle. So right now we've got 3 products, which I mentioned: non-owner auto, renters, and miscellaneous professional liability. And we ask you kind of a few questions about your lifestyle. We've got a page that for now we're calling the Configurator, which is not a good name, but I'm a product person, not a marketing person. We'll get there. But you choose a few things about your lifestyle, and we recommend the package for you. And we're bringing on a few additional products from a couple of partners, and then perhaps some of our own as well. And as we do that kind of combinatorial kind of math of these different little bits and bytes of insurance lets us create what looks like a personalized product just for you, but has a little bit of everything you need, right? So that's the direction we're going, and kind of flipping around the user experience as well.
So it sounds so a lot of insurtechs are taking what I call the tech-enabled MGA to
Yeah.
carrier, right? So they're an MGA right now.
Yeah.
Eventually, will probably be a carrier.
Yep.
It kind of sounds like for you guys being an MGA is an advantage, not only in being able to launch much more quickly with much less capital,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
also it sounds like the approach is all auto is pretty easy to get. Let's focus on the things that are hard to get and then
Exactly.
package them from the top
Exactly.
kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So we built from the very beginning that we can either build our own products on our own platform or bring somebody else's product into our platform and integrate it very easily. So yeah, so it's our user experience and our billing and payment, but not all the products are necessarily built by us. Yeah, we don't need to be the 27th newly launched, auto provider or anything on the market. That's not the angle that we're going at. We're building in all the cracks and then pulling together what's out there and does work, but putting it into a user experience that matches people's expectations.
Yeah, and as a consumer, I don't care who's actually right. I've
Why
never,
would you? Right.
yeah, like my girlfriend's mom has never cared that Hartford steam boiler is the one actually covering her
No.
equipment, her mechanical equipment in the house.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We've been doing that white labeling forever.
Yes.
Why would I care who's actually providing the coverage? All I care is that it's easy to buy.
Yeah.
It's priced well for my lifestyle. It covers what I actually needed to cover without me having to know to fix the holes.
And when something goes wrong, yep,
that it's
they're there
easy
for you.
to use.
Yeah, so we're not necessarily white labeling. We certainly have the ability to, but we don't feel that there's any reason to sort of try to conceal somebody else's product necessarily, right? I mean, part of this too is that we've allowed insurance as an industry, we've allowed insurance to become a highly commoditized product, right? And so that means on the one hand, that makes it very, very tough to make money, obviously in competitive lines, which is why we're not building on auto, but it also means that there are typically more than one player that really will do an excellent job in each category, right? And you know what you're getting. So yeah, we think we had the value in the advice, in packaging together all the other little pieces, in the fact that we are sort of line agnostic from the start. So my co-founder Jay Grayson and I are property and casualty people by trade and by training. But we're licensed up across life, accident, and health as well. And so some of the initial products we'll be pulling in from other carriers are more in the life and disability and accident space, right? Like nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, I really want to buy some inland marine today, for example, right? All right, so I picked the most ridiculous example because inland marine is just funny to say, right? Mm-hmm. but this divide between property and casualty and life, accident, and health, it makes sense in terms of sort of training and how you manage capital and what kinds of things you need to think about. It makes no sense whatsoever from a customer's perspective, right? So we've built on a platform that will let us kind of add whatever we'd like, episodic or kind of more traditional term policies, life or accident or disability, as well as kind of all the property and casualty stuff. I mean, as a longtime insurance person, it is like, I'm just gleeful at having a new platform, right? I mean, the technology is just so different than what's sitting in the core of a lot of larger insurers.
So how did the idea come up? I've interviewed many insurtech founders that came from tech, not from insurance, right?
Yeah.
Little by little, we're getting better about that. You came from insurance. Mm-hmm. So how did the idea come up for this new approach?
Yeah, so it wasn't actually my idea. So I'm gonna tell you someone else's story. So I was a consultant, and Jay Grayson, who's my co-founder, hired me to do a little product design because he had an idea for kind of selling a bundled product to younger adults who didn't necessarily have access to all the products they needed. And about 2 months in, he turned to me one day and was like, have you ever thought about co-founding an insurtech? And I was like, no. And he was like, I meant, do you want to co-found this one with me? And I'm like, oh, different question. Yeah, sure. So that was really the genesis of the idea. He had left Liberty and spent a few months just, interviewing people and talking to people about insurance and looking at other industries. And he saw that there was this gap for young adults. And that was right around the time, this is a couple of years ago now. So it was right around the time when the sharing economy was much in the news. You don't really hear that phrase so much anymore, although, because it's a thing, we don't need to talk about it separately anymore, right? But just so I came on board and we did a lot of customer research, both with young adults and with their parents, who are often quite involved in their financial life as well. And it just sort of like matched up with some things that I had been seeing in my prior insurance jobs as well, which is that, insurance is a product that does good things, right? Like we're there with people in their moment of need. And that there were a lot of people who were left out of that market for a variety of reasons and didn't have the tools to protect themselves. So that was sort of where it came from. And then just as we sort of, how it is, like to build an MGA, you have to kind of make friends across reinsurance and capital providers and customers and technology people and all the rest. And it just kind of became clear that this was an idea that had legs in terms of, getting people to march alongside us as we pulled this together too.
So both former Liberty.
Yes, although the bizarre thing is we were peers. We went to many of the same executive meetings. We had never met each other before.
Okay,
a former mutual colleague introduced ourselves because she knew I'd left Liberty and that Jay was looking for someone to work with him. So is that bizarre?
So digging back into the career piece.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at your LinkedIn.
Yep.
Okay, so you get a degree from Harvard originally, undergrad, right? History and Celtic studies. So
my parents were very proud of my medieval Welsh skills.
I was gonna say, do you speak the traditional Irish language? I can't even remember what it.
I took Welsh for a number of years when I was in college. I will to defend myself a little bit. I did work 30 hours a week when I was in college at a consulting firm, so I had a few skills that were helpful aside from just Welsh and Latin.
Okay, then within insurance, we have tons of people with random degrees.
Yeah, for sure.
But yes, we're working in a consulting firm at the same time is probably a good idea. Okay, so you come out of college.
Yep.
Take a manager role at is that an actual diamond company?
No. So I mentioned I had this like pretty significant part-time job in college, and it was for a consulting firm that specialized in wireless telecom. And there was a Spanish firm based in Barcelona called Cluster Consulting that basically hired everybody away from the firm I worked for their first US office in Boston. And then their real estate deal fell through, and they said to me, "Do you want to go to Barcelona for a little bit?" I was like, yeah. So I ended up staying almost a year in Barcelona, and then it was kind of time for me to come back to the States. And they said, "Well, do you want to go to London for a bit?" And I was like, well, yeah. So I spent 3 years in London, was promoted to manager, and then kind of, in a consulting firm. In professional services generally, you're just at this point where you sort of have to make a decision. Either I'm going to put my head down and work really hard until I can build up a book of clientele and become a partner, or I don't want to do this professional services thing and it's time to leave. And I mean, I think the world of people who do professional services, but I'm a builder, and so I made the decision to come back and do an MBA.
Okay, so the Latin background must have been helpful with Spanish in Barcelona.
Spanish, Catalan.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, Catalan and Spanish.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It was. Although we staffed on a pan-Europe. I can't even believe. Like, people ask me, how do you get a job like that? I'm like, I have no idea. You take a job in Boston for a company that can't figure out their real estate. I don't know. But we staffed on a pan-European basis, and so I worked in 10 countries in the almost 4 years I was there. It was incredibly.
That's fantastic.
Part of it was just saying yes when people asked me if I wanted to do things that sounded crazy,
Okay. So you come back and get an MBA again from Harvard.
I do, yeah. Yep.
So with a Harvard MBA, it's extremely rare. In fact, with any top 20 MBA, it's extremely rare to go into insurance. So why insurance?
Yeah, so the answer is soup. So I was interviewing for summer jobs, you know, and the internship you do between the 2 years of your MBA. And I was looking at consumer services generally. I'm not super interested in hard products like what color plastic and whatever. It's not really my thing. And I really like the data that the data exhaust that like consumer businesses throw off. So it's like financial services and stuff like that. And this was long enough ago that you had to put on a suit and actually go somewhere for an interview. So you'd sign up for these interviews, you'd apply. And then if anybody had a cancellation, that have like a sign on the door with open slots where you could just sign up instead of applying. And so I had this interview that was way off campus, and it was a really cold day. And I noticed that the interview room next door was Progressive, and they had an open slot right after my prior slot, and I already had a suit on. And I had not lived in the US for 4 years, right? I'd never owned a car, and Progressive did not write at that point in Massachusetts where I grew up. So that's my excuse, but I thought it was the soup company, Progresso. So I was like, I'm not super interested in soup, but I'm here and there's nobody else here. And it's the end of the day and I have a suit on. Why wouldn't I like go talk to this person? It ended up being Ron Davies, who was the CEO of Safe Auto for a lot of years afterwards. And he was sitting there in jeans. And I was just like, oh, these are my people. So I was really impressed by the people at Progressive. I mean, it's just a company, really smart people with a really flat hierarchy and really casual kind of attitude, but high standards. So I said, well, I'll do my summer internship there, and then I'll use that as a bridge to find something that's not insurance. And I just
famous last words
there. Yeah. Right. That's like the last thing you say. And suddenly,
yeah, exactly.
Suddenly you're not a zookeeper, you're an insurance nerd. Right?
Yeah, no, I've heard that many times. Exactly. I took the job until I found the career I wanted, and 35 years later, you're retiring from insurance.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was just so much fun. And so I went back to Progressive for 3 or 4 years after my MBA. Was a product manager, had P&L for three or four states in the Southeast. Had no idea what I was doing, no idea. Back then, product managers had the direct and the agency business. People think of Progressive as a direct company, but something like 40 or 45% of their business is agency, and it was more back in the day. So spent a lot of time driving around rural Arkansas, Louisiana, North Carolina, and South Carolina with our sales reps, learned the ropes, messing things up, was instructed to fix the things I messed up. You know, it was an amazing place to start a career, and I learned a ton. I look back to those days. That's where I know Gloria from, by the way. We were colleagues back in the day at Progressive.
I figured.
Yeah. But home was calling. I grew up in the Boston area. Progressive didn't write in Massachusetts. They didn't have any jobs up here. They offered me a remote job. This is like 2008. I was like, who works remote? Famous last words as well. Came up to Plymouth Rock and was their Massachusetts product manager when the Massachusetts auto insurance market was deregulating. But Liberty had sort of been whispering in my ear, and they hired me and said, hey, if you come join us, we'll promote you in, come work in personal lines for a year. I promise we'll find a promotion for you. It's one of those things you're not supposed to believe. But 6 months later, I was senior vice president.
Yes, let me. It's called a dangle.
Yes.
And yeah, career advice wise, yes, correct. You just, for anybody that has this situation,
except when you do.
You have to make the decision based on the job you're getting, not on the job they're promising you.
Yes.
Unless they're putting it on writing, and then even then, exactly. So as career advice, don't take the job for the job they're promising you later. If you're gonna take it for the job you're getting today. So it's important to say, yeah.
Yes. Yes. I wouldn't advise you to do what I did, but what I would say, there is a theme in my career as I look back, just the way you've sort of kind of drawn it out of me, of being willing to jump and to make changes, even when they seem a little bit strange to other people. Because sometimes you just know, like, I think the thing I knew about Liberty, I didn't know that I was going to get promoted or that I could trust my manager or that I'd do well there. The corporate culture was very different from places I'd been. But what I did know was that it was a huge operation. And I did know that people transferred around internally. And I did know that I could take my product management expertise and learn something new there. And that to me was exciting. So yeah, I would have been really irritated if a year in, there was no chance for a promotion anywhere. And I was darn lucky that there happened to be an opening that I happened to be like kind of just what they were looking for. But but the idea of jumping to a place where there are more opportunities to learn than where you are is not a bad one.
Okay, and so you're there till 2016.
Yeah,
2016, the InsurTech thing is starting to happen.
it is. Yeah,
I don't remember if the word InsurTech was, or maybe it had just
maybe, but it was a strange
exactly.
word. Did it have an E or
Exactly.
did it not have an E? We
So
don't know. You know?
so you're sitting at Liberty with a wonderful SVP title. You could have spent the
Mhm.
rest of your career at
For
Liberty
sure. I could
as
have
an
retired
executive. Yeah.
early and, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So
Yeah.
why jump and become an independent consultant?
Yeah. I just quit. So I kind of sat there and I was like, this is a good company and these are good people. But I don't want my boss's job and I don't want my boss's job. And I'm playing politics. It's just a huge corporation. I'm playing politics all day to get things done. It's way harder to get things done. It seems like it shouldn't be hard. Things that shouldn't be hard are hard. I know how to do that now. I know how to work in large organizations, but I kind of just don't want to. And this is my life. So yeah, I could retire early in whatever, 15 years or something, or 20, I don't know, whatever. But I just don't want to. So I actually left and both started I wasn't actually planning on starting a consulting firm. Theme here, there's a theme. I actually went back to school and studied clinical nutrition. I did 4 semesters of 5 of a master's degree program. I hear that dropping out of school says good things about your entrepreneurial talents. Well, I did it. But I very quickly started getting requests from people I knew asking if I could do some consulting. And I was sort of like, yeah, I can like just work on the projects that I want to work on that I think are great. And it pays really well. Like, yeah, I'll do that on the side. So I had a very, very busy, maybe year and a half, 2 years it must have been, of going to school full time, where I was also trying to catch up on a bunch of prerequisites, because it turns out that Celtic history does not provide clinical nutrition prerequisites. So I was taking like microbiology.
Having never taken a biology class doesn't provide a great backing for a science master's.
Which of these is a pipette? I don't know. So I had prerequisites to take alongside the program, because let's just say I was a little bit behind, and that was actually a lot of fun. It's really different being like a midlife student. Like youth and education are both wasted on the young in some ways, it's so much easier to be a good student as a grown-up. And the consulting was taking up more and more of my time. I was having a great time doing it. And then I started doing the project for Jay, and he asked me if I wanted to join him as a co-founder. And at that point, there was sort of just a choice to be made. I might have been able to finish the last semester and kept moving it around. But I kind of looked and I was like, in order to get my credential as a registered dietitian, I also have to do a 6-month unpaid internship full time. And so at that point, I was sort of like, I enjoyed what I learned. The people that I met were great and are trying to do like God's own work. And someday, if we make it rich, I will endow a chair, but my life calling is not this. It's to go and build and to try to build in my area of expertise, where I've spent 15 years. And so it actually, like, it sounds hard, but it wasn't. Sometimes you just know. And also it's nice to be a little older and be beyond the point at which you care that much about like what your parents might think of your decision and what everybody else thinks of your decision. Like, I just don't care. This is what was right for me at this point in my life. And my husband was totally on board and totally supportive. So it was good.
So surround, to go full circle.
Yes.
So how many states are you guys in?
It's funny that you ask. We are technically in 1 state right now, in Massachusetts, but over the last couple of weeks, we have just gotten licensed up in 7 more, and we've got two licenses still pending. So we should be in 10 states within the month with products that are not our own, and we are beginning the filing process in those states for the MGA products as well. So you caught us right at a moment of expansion, which is exciting.
Perfect. And the goal, if you can share, is all 50 states.
It's probably 35-ish. I don't know that like there's ever going to be a huge audience in, say, the Dakotas, for example.
Oh, that's right. The type of product.
Yeah, it tends to be an urban population. At some moment that will make sense, but we're sort of saying 35 states because there are 35 states that have urban areas with
Yeah,
200,000 or more potential
makes
customers.
perfect sense.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, this has been a ton of fun.
it's been fun. Yeah.
You're just a ball of energy, and it is rare for me to be the one saying to somebody that they're full of energy. It's really been a lot of fun. What a story! Absolutely love it. It's a wonderful insurance story, basically.
Yeah.
And write the book at some point about the adventure, because it really is an interesting one. So thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to see as you guys continue to build Surround. And I'm glad that somebody out there is actually building products that make sense for the rest of us that don't fit the traditional idea of, or the traditional stereotype of your typical American, basic or traditional American.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. It was so much fun talking to you.
Awesome. Thank you.